What is up, guys? Doing another one down solo. Today, I'm doing First World Bank. As you can tell by the, excuse me, by the title, I did get all loot and no downs during this run. Overall, I felt like it was a pretty good run. This is the same build that I used for my, oh shoot, what was it called? For my Go Bank video, except instead of using the CAR-4, I'm using the AK rifle. Not for any particular reason, more for stylistic purposes. They function exactly the same, have pretty much exactly the same stats. So, I am once again using the Sicario perk deck. Interesting thing I noticed about this particular vault side, or gate side I suppose I should rather call it, is that the little glass panels that are underneath the handrails, you can't bust through those and walk underneath them like you can. If you notice here, I can bust these and I can like walk underneath them slightly and actually like go through. But if I bust these, I'm actually not able to press my character model through them, which is actually a bit inconvenient, because it forces you to, you have to jump over the handrails, which can expose you a little bit, not a bunch, but it's just a minor thing. You can also do it on this side. Walk under the handrails, I mean. Here I'm just breaking things to break things, of course. I did have auto restarting drills, but the none of my my drill clearly wasn't an auto restarting throughout this, but it wasn't too much of an issue. I think Kickstarter worked for me once or twice. Overall, this heist was really defensible. There were plenty of areas to kind of hunker down and keep first aid kits down so I could, you know, kind of protect myself. Put in the first aid kit there because these enemies always burst through the window.
Surrender, asshole! Get down on your knee! Get your cuffs off! Drop your weapon!
Went ahead and started the hack and wanted to move closer to the drill so I could do easier repairs whenever the drill would probably inevitably break. Can't seem to talk right now for some reason. Trying to go ahead and take my... Oh, I think I'm... Oh, okay, I thought I accidentally patched myself up right there. I think I actually did do that later on in the heist. I was trying to interact with a bag or something and I accidentally patched myself up. Drill did go down here, and the hack was interrupted as well. I find it safer to loop around this side as opposed to jumping over the thing. It allows me to put myself behind this metal detector. I didn't get the Kickstarter, so I just had to reignite the drill manually, which isn't that big of a deal. Smoke screen gave me quite a bit of time to go ahead and fix it. Of course, I wasn't shot at by anybody anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered, but still, of course, just using it as a preemptive thing, as you have to with the smoke screen. Or no, you don't have to, but it's kind of hard to use the smoke screen as a panic button. Slowly making my way over to the hack so that I can go ahead and fix it. Couldn't stun that guy because he was already in the animation for hacking the computer. I wanted to try to catch him before, but after I hit him the one time, I realized I probably wasn't going to be able to stop him even if I started shooting him. Unless I just got a crit and shot him one time in the head and killed him, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I was right there, so just a second or two delay. Managed to run through here and dodge everything, which was pretty sweet. Or dodge / armor gate everything. Didn't get Kickstarter. Maybe I didn't get Kickstarter at all during this. It's kind of a bummer. Not a big deal though. I really like to keep the first aid kits kind of littered around areas in between where I frequently run to and fro to when I'm moving from cover to cover or to an objective. I normally would place one on the stairs in case I was shot while I was running up. However, I didn't this time around because I just it had never. I placed it there to anticipate going down in the stairs. However, I'd never actually went down in the stairs. So places that I would normally end up going down at in previous runs, I use that knowledge to realize, like, okay, I get stuck in this position a lot because I take cover here a lot. So I need to, you know, either put a first aid kit on the way to this location or like at this location so that I can revive myself with uppers. Going ahead and placing the thermite so the 5-minute timer will start. However, I rush back up to get the other thermite to shave off approximately 2 minutes. When you place down the second thermite can, it starts a completely separate 3-minute timer. It doesn't completely shave off 2 minutes, an actual 2 minutes, unless you have, I kind of forgot where the copy room was there for a moment, but placing down the secondary thermite can doesn't actually immediately take off 2 minutes. It starts the 2 thermite cans have separate timers, so when you lay down the first can, it starts a 5-minute timer. When you lay down the second can, it starts a completely separate 3-minute timer. And so if you waited like 2 minutes and 1 second to place down the second thermite can, you actually aren't saving yourself any time, because you're still going to have to wait a minimum of 2 minutes 59 seconds and a maximum of 3 minutes before either thermite can finishes. So usually want to try to do that. If you're doing it solo, it can be a bit difficult if you're having to wait and move carefully to get the other thermite can. However, I didn't have to because it was in Fade and the assault wave was in the midst of ending, which was pretty convenient for me. This little area right here, although not entirely super secure, I'm kind of exposed no matter where I go, to one degree or another. My convert was helping me keep kind of the help me with covering fire, essentially. I didn't have the speed pull mag on my AK, typically because, or I didn't have it on a specific AK because I think it gave me like 1 concealment too much in order to have maximum bonuses from Low Blow and Sneaky Bastard. And so I figured, well, I mean, having only the half reload time would be nice. However, having the extra 3% crit chance and the extra % dodge, I feel is a bit more important across the longevity of a heist. Seeing as how I should be popping in and out of cover regardless, so. Bullied around a little bit by shields. One of my favorite things about this game, just getting knocked around. Thankfully, I've never been a victim of being clipped through the map by shields. I've seen screenshots and seen videos and so forth of people being meleeed by shields through portions of the map due to weird clipping issues. And I've seen shields clip through small walls before when they were attempting to melee somebody and just phase through the wall. It's kind of an interesting little thing. I'm not sure what causes it necessarily, but even though I was relatively exposed in this position, I was pretty satisfied with how well the cover worked in this particular spot. I would have gone up front, except I knew, at the very least from the position I was in, that enemies weren't going to spawn from behind me. And so enemies couldn't sneak up behind me, they could only come from in front of me, which gave me plenty of reaction time to kind of push myself around so that I could protect myself. Now I just have to deal with the dozers down here. Thankfully, I had essentially full ammo in my AK when I came down here, and crits allowed me to take care of the dozers relatively quickly. The best weapon against dozers on one down, without a doubt, are crits. Just picking up the loose money while I'm waiting for the doors to open. I don't want to start bagging all of this money just quite yet, so that I can go ahead and move some of it into the ventilation before enemies decide to, pick them up and carry them off. Using the smoke screen to kind of act as a halfway. Placing a first aid kits kind of intermittently throughout this area so that I have kind of stopping points. Placing them in such a way that... oh yeah, I forgot I was able to pick those up through the floor. Forgot about that. But placing the first aid kits in this little bit of a train so that as I'm carrying bags out, if I do get shot down by enemies, uppers will pick me back up, and should have adequate time to retreat to some amount of cover to get out of the line of fire for at least a minute. Dozer was being a bit hateful. My accuracy was also quite lovely right there, so that wasn't helping too much. That's alright. I definitely like this build because it makes me not have to worry about dozers all that much. Trying to do no down runs with Kingpin, although highly doable, dealing with dozers in a extremely quick fashion before they take care of me can sometimes be a bit of an issue. Not so much so that it feels like an impossible task, but I definitely feel like dozers are much scarier when I'm running a Kingpin build versus a Sicario build. In fact, in Sicario, most of my fear comes from just being 1 or 2 shot from standard units when I'm just not 100% prepared to deal with them. So since there's a little break in the assault wave right here, I decided to move the money bags into this intermediary spot on the stairs where I had placed a first aid kit so that I could kind of hurry up the process a little bit. I think I went ahead and moved these bags into the vent while I could go ahead and, move them basically unhindered. Decided it's probably a good idea to place a first aid kit there since the other first aid kit most likely wouldn't reach me, would be out of range of uppers for it to pick me up. It was very roughly at this point that I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and go for all loot. I hadn't actually prepared to do that as I was making this video. I was just going to do the no downs run and call it a day. But I realized that it'd probably be, if I had easy enough time moving 8 bags, it'd be, just as simple to move the extra 4 to go ahead and get all the loot. So I was like, why not? enemies started spawning from the front of the bank area as opposed to back exactly in the vault area like they were, simply because of how the objective, or like, yeah, basically when the objective changes and you're actually moving the money bags into the vault, into the vent, the enemies spawn change. It's a pretty common tactic when you're doing overdrill, you know, to force the enemy spawns to, or like you start the moving cash into the vent objective so that you can cause the enemies to spawn only from the front of the bank and not from inside the bank. So that's why even the assault wave has started, and it's been started for, you know, a minute or two at this point. It's not. That's why it's taking them so long to get back here. I'm so scatterbrained right now. I apologize for that.
I blew the shield's brains out.
Of course, I'm just trying to generally move up the bags so that I can have an easy way to secure them. My first aid kit's kind of giving me a bit of cushion just in case I were to... Yeah, that's where I accidentally picked up the first aid kit. Just so I have, you know, again, the cushion from uppers so I won't get downed. I just decided to skip over here for a minute to try to avoid all those enemies. Wasn't really worried about getting surrounded by enemies in this specific position, since the enemy spawns were coming in through the front, and if I really needed to, even if I got picked up by uppers, I could escape to the back pretty reliably. I accidentally missed that bag. I was a little nervous at this point. Hands shaking just a little bit.
Surrender, asshole. Drop your gun. Look out, taser! Watch out for the wasted that medic. I got the taser. Look out, taser!
So of course at this point I'm done moving all the bags in, so now I just need to make my way up front. Don't want to rush it too bad in case I get swamped in this general area. However, at this point I was like, oh, there's a first aid kit there so I can run, there's a first aid kit up here so I can just bolt.
Surrender, asshole.
So, since I had already pre-placed my first aid kits in kind of strategic locations so that I could, you know, sprint through these areas, that's why I place them in the way that I do, so that I'm able to sprint through these areas, have uppers pick me up, and then duck in, and then I can duck into cover before I sustain any more damage. And I find it to be pretty effective. I do it a little bit differently when I use Kingpin, since I usually just use the injector to move from cover to cover, and I usually just put the first aid kits in places that I hold out as opposed to placing them in kind of little trails that I can run through. However, I did find placing them in little trails that I could run through extremely useful, and I do it here at the very end of the heist as well, as I'm moving the bags in case I get swamped by enemies at the very last section.
Now, no more taser, my friends. Cocksucker's got a shield. Shit.
Got crits on those tasers with my grenade launcher, which is pretty dope.
This is the place.
Alright, here's the truck, and there's our bags. Stash the load into the truck.
First aid here.
I was looking to see if the dozer had spawned so that I could go ahead and take him out.
Got a first aid kit here, amigos. First aid here.
As with earlier, I'm placing the first aid kit train so I can kind of
Run faster.
keep myself protected in case enemies come down here as I'm moving all these bags. I was pretty confident that it was going to take the enemies a little bit to get down here, since my converts would be distracting them and keeping them up top for a decent amount of time. However, I also knew that the enemies would eventually pull away from the converts and be pulled more towards me.
Bulldozer. Watch out, it's a bulldozer.
That was the dozer I was looking for earlier. That busts out of the door as you go into the basement area. Enemies still hadn't come into the basement at this point, so I was... Well, never mind, I take it back. A taser ran in at this point, and I thought the taser was just going to be it, so I was like, oh, okay, cool, I'm just free to throw all these money bags in. I got the first aid kit right in front of me, so I'll be able to, you know... I was pretty sure I was going to be able to throw all these in without any difficulties. However, more enemies washed in, so I went ahead and threw down, used the remaining first aid kits I had, or used one of the remaining first aid kits I had to get my health back, using the smoke screen to protect myself from this enemy fire. Just trying to suppress some of the enemies. By suppress, I don't mean like in-game suppress, I just mean like literally just trying to kill them and push them back a little bit. Only had a few more seconds until my thing was charged again, so I went ahead and threw my smoke grenade and grabbed this last bag and threw it in. I was prepared to leave behind the loot if I had to, however I really wanted to go ahead and grab all the loot if I could. So that's all there was to it. First world bank with no downs, no assets I believe, and with all the loot. We'll take a quick look at my stats. Alright, and as usual, thank you guys so much for watching.